Here we are in Lottieville, Florida. As a matter of fact, we're probably in the middle of redneck territory, and that reminds me of an old redneck joke. How can you tell when you're a redneck? It's when your porch collapses and more than 6 cats are killed. And as a matter of fact, there's a porch there. And why is the porch going to collapse? Maybe because of termite damage. It turns out that this is a house that was built many years ago, probably 50, 60 years ago, has been added on to many times, and is the old kind of construction in Florida, located in a very rural part of Florida. And in this part of Florida, people don't tend to be concerned too much about insect problems until they really become a problem. So I think it's going to be very interesting to look at this house and see what the termites have done to it. And we'll be taking a close look at some of the infestations and the situation, and maybe some of the controls that are needed to get the termites under control in this house. We're here with Mike Burnett, who is a pest controller who was asked to inspect this house. Mike, what was the situation that you had with the homeowner when they called about the situation?
She called and said that she wanted an inspection, and that she felt she had some problems because she'd seen some, what she said, I think they're swarmers flying around in her daughter's bedroom. She said it's been not once, but it's happened a couple of different times, so she figured she'd have somebody check it out. So
several times winged reproductives left the colony and were flying around in her daughter's bedroom, but they really didn't have any idea that they had wood damage?
Not really. She just assumed that they would probably come out before, and explained that, you know, they had bought the house several years ago from somebody else, and she didn't know a lot about how much damage or anything like that. She just got tired of fighting the bugs and flying around and stuff, so she wanted to do something about it.
So how many years ago did they buy the house?
They bought the house, from my understanding, about 5 or 6 years ago.
And they've seen the termites?
They've seen it. She told me on the phone we've seen them 2 or 3 times.
Wait a minute, let's back up. They bought the house when?
They bought the house 5 or 6 years ago.
And how often have the termites been swarming now?
She said they've swarmed 2 to 3 times, meaning I'm assuming 2 or 3 years they have swarmed, and all she really said is they've swarmed 2 or 3 times. She didn't say this year they did and last year they didn't, but I'm assuming from her description it's been at least 2 years.
And so at this point, they just have swarmers and no indication of wood damage?
At this point, yes. At this point, that's all she knows of, that she has swarmers and stuff, and she said, I'm tired of seeing the bugs, I want something done.
But of course, in this part of Florida, it's common for people just to take the wood out, throw it away, and replace it when they see some damage, I would gather.
Very common, not unusual. Usually somebody like that has replaced the wood a couple of times, and then finally got to the point where they said, well, I'm tired of fighting with it, can I do something? If they haven't tried to do some home remedies before.
Right, of course, this is kind of a do-it-yourself house, if I understand right. It looks like it was built quite a while ago, and just by someone who wasn't really a carpenter. They just built it for themselves.
Yeah, you have an older chimney there that looked like they took it down when they did some remodeling. It's a lap siding. The lap siding is actually a metal lap, and it's put right on the outside of the wood that's already existing, so they didn't even take that off.
And I see they even have the tin roof on there that a lot of the people from the older part of the state just absolutely love.
Yeah, they say, you know, you can sit and listen to the tin raindrop on the tin.
Yeah, so, and I gather there's an older part of the house over here and a newer part over there, if I see right.
Yeah, in the back, over in the back area, they added that on. She said they added it on after they had purchased the house to give them a little bit more room. They moved the washer and dryer out to the back.
So they had a washer and dryer, and you said that the water just kind of flowed out onto the ground as opposed to into a septic tank or anything.
That's what she said originally, and that's part of the reason they moved it to the back. Is originally, I'm assuming the washer and dryer was in like the kitchen area, and it just kind of ran out underneath the house, and she told me she felt like that's probably where the problem started, because they never really did anything, just kind of let it run out there.
And it looks to me like that's exactly where they have their problem, is where they had provided water for the termites for many years.
Yeah, and still, there's still some work needs to be done there, because they're still running the water out that way, which, you know, I've spoke with her about trying to correct that, but there's still water running there, so we'll have to see what we can do with that too.
Yeah, well, what I want you to do is show me a little bit of the problem that you've seen in inspecting this house. Maybe if we start inside and then work down towards the ground, we can take a closer look.
Okay.
Right now we're inside in the daughter's bedroom where the termites swarmed out. Mike, what did you find when you inspected this area?
Well, there's a lot of quite a bit of evidence here Up higher, there's some holes here where some exit, probably some reproductive come out. There's a few.
So actually this was where you think a lot of the reproductives came out of the colony up here?
Yeah, they came out there. There's a few dead ones you can see still hanging right here.
On some spider webs that are up there.
Right. And then as you work down, you can also see in the crack here how the tunnels have just come right up the crack and have just worked right up the crack.
At mud tubes. And right off the bat, when you checked it, was there high moisture up here?
The moisture was not as high. It was elevated, but not as high as you work down. The moisture, of course, increased.
So as you get down closer to the ground, you have higher moisture. And of course, the termites are bringing moisture up from the soil to wet the wood that they're feeding on. Now, the termites that swarm out, they're attracted to light. So I think they probably saw, what, swarmers next to the window over there, next to the bed?
There's some swarmers in the window over there as well. A little piece of plastic and stuff that's around that, but some swarmers in there as well. So the lady was correct in saying they were probably flying all over the place for her.
Right. Now with your moisture meter, it shows a green light when you have normal moisture conditions, a yellow light when it's starting to get high, and a red light when it's really high.
That's correct.
So let's take a look and see what happens with your moisture meter then. So I gather, Mike, that that's a place where the termites are really active because you have a red line which is up around 27–29% moisture reading. Is that what I'm reading there?
Actually about 23 to 25 right now, okay, somewhere in that neighborhood. 25. Right. So yeah, that's.
So there's a lot of moisture in that wood. They brought it up from the soil.
Yeah, and it pretty much stays in that area, yellow to red, somewhere between 17 and 25% as you get even work down the wall. So it's pretty heavy in this one area. And
this wall is right where they added on, right?
This is where the end of the house was, and they added on the add-on in the back end. This used to be a window area as well, and here they took out when they added on.
Okay, and I see that there's mud in that crack there. The termites have completely filled up that mud, that crack with mud.
That's true, completely. And part of the situation now with them in there, and this being a tongue and groove wood, is most likely there is possibility of tunneling on the back side of this wood as well. So pretty heavy infestation in this wall with a high moisture area possibly.
Good. Can you show me some of the winged reproductives here?
As you can see, here's the winged reproducer swarmers, as they call in this area, along here where they've got caught in the spider webs along that area. A little further back, you can see the mud tubes, mud tunnels where they have come out from underneath the wood in that area.
The termite swarmers emerged from that wall over there and were attracted to the light at the window, and a large number of them have accumulated at the base of the window and have died there. Okay, so tell me a little bit about where we are outside this house right now, Mike.
Okay, we're out in the crawl area. We've opened up a couple of accesses to be able to get underneath the crawl. A little shallow to get underneath, but once you get underneath, it opens up into a big crawl.
Right, and this corner here is where the girl's bedroom is, and this part out here was added on later?
That is correct. That was the end of the house. This is the piece that was added on. And originally where the water used to drain before for the washer and dryer, and it looks like they've added on some now to get away from the house a little bit.
And if there was ever any treatment, it was probably dug out when they added this plumbing in here that's kind of stuck right on the soil surface.
Yeah, if there ever was any treatment, it probably was. Originally, you can see underneath it a little bit that there was some kind of siding put in there originally where the house ended, and put in ground. There's some wood to ground contact there which could have started some of the problem.
Well, good. I guess we'll be able to get under there and take a look at some of the mud tubes as they're getting up into that girl's bedroom, right?
Yeah, we should be able to with no problem.
All right. It looks like this termite colony must have been here for some time. Here's a piece of wood. Wow, it won't even come out. It's just coming apart. And actually there are termites in this right now. They're feeding right here on this wood. And you can see the mud tubes and the termite workers crawling around right in there. Well, you got to get down to where the termites are. This is a termite tube going directly up into the house, and what's interesting is here's direct wood to soil contact. This is untreated wood in both cases. The termites found that. They built their tube right up into the house, and here's another one over here where it goes up and there's mud packed right up into that area, and there's mud packed up into this area. These tubes are really well established. There's actually a third tube in the house that was located directly under the bathroom. That tube has been around for a long time because it's more than 6 inches wide and quite extensive. The area under the bathroom had quite a bit of leaking, probably from either the tub or the toilet. The wood is stained and you can see termite tunneling over the surface, and when you probe it, it turns out there isn't much of that wood left, so it looks like you could be sitting on the toilet and come right down into the crawl space as a result of this termite damage. When you take the tube apart, there are termites inside moving from the ground up to the wood to feed on it, and there are just thousands of those termites moving at any one time. You'd never know that there was this kind of activity if you just go up into the house itself. And when you take a close look inside those galleries, you can see soldiers that are there to defend the colony, and you can see some of the workers just scurrying around. There's actually a third tube in the house that was located directly under the bathroom. That tube has been around for a long time because it's more than 6 inches wide and quite extensive. The area under the bathroom had quite a bit of leaking, probably from either the tub or the toilet. The wood is stained and you can see termite tunneling over the surface, and when you probe it, it turns out there isn't much of that wood left, so it looks like you could be sitting on the toilet and come right down into the crawl space as a result of this termite damage. When you take the tube apart, there are termites inside moving from the ground up to the wood to feed on it, and there are just thousands of those termites moving at any one time. You'd never know that there was this kind of activity if you just go up into the house itself. And when you take a close look inside those galleries, you can see soldiers that are there to defend the colony, and you can see some of the workers just scurrying around.